The sands of Egypt whispered tales of a defiant pharaoh and a prophet named Moses. Moses, once raised as an Egyptian prince, returned from exile with a divine message. "Let my people go." He stood before the pharaoh, an imposing figure on a gilded throne. "The God of Israel commands you," Moses proclaimed, his voice echoing through the hall. Pharaoh scoffed, his heart hardened by pride. He refused to acknowledge this God or the plight of the Israelites toiling under his rule. Pharaoh's defiance ignited a chain of events that shook Egypt to its core. With each refusal, Moses, guided by God, unleashed a plague upon the land. The Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, turned to blood. Fish died, the air reeked, and despair gripped the land. Still, Pharaoh remained unmoved, his heart growing colder with each passing plague. Frogs swarmed the land, a slimy, croaking tide that invaded homes and temples. Lice followed, an itchy torment that afflicted man and beast alike. Yet, even as his people suffered, Pharaoh clung to his power. He refused to see the suffering he caused, the fear that gnawed at the edges of his once unshakable authority. With each plague, the cries of his people grew louder. His advisors begged him to relent, to free the Israelites and appease their God. But Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. The plagues intensified, each one a devastating blow to Egypt's prosperity and pride. Swarms of flies, a buzzing, biting plague, darkened the skies. Pestilence swept through the land, decimating livestock. Boils erupted on the skin of the Egyptians, a painful reminder of their rulers' stubbornness. The heavens themselves seemed to rage as a devastating hailstorm hammered the land, destroying crops and shattering the illusion of Pharaoh's invincibility. Locusts, a ravenous horde, followed the hail, stripping the land bare. The sun vanished as a thick, suffocating darkness enveloped Egypt. Fear and despair seeped into every corner of the once mighty kingdom. Still, Pharaoh remained unmoved, his heart encased in a shell of pride and defiance. Finally, the 10th and most terrifying plague arrived, the death of the firstborn. In the dead of night, an eerie silence fell over Egypt, broken only by the anguished cries of parents who awoke to find their firstborn children dead. The pharaoh's own palace echoed with the heartbreaking sobs of his queen, her firstborn son lifeless in her arms. The weight of his son's death finally shattered Pharaoh's resolve. His heart, once a fortress of pride, crumbled under the weight of grief and despair. He summoned Moses and Aaron. "Go," he rasped, his voice hoarse with sorrow. "Leave this place. Take your people and your God and go." And so, after centuries of servitude, the Israelites were free. They streamed out of Egypt, a vast multitude led by Moses, their hearts filled with a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration. They carried with them the memory of their suffering and the unshakable belief in the God who had delivered them. Their journey was arduous, the desert a harsh and unforgiving landscape. Yet, they pressed onward, sustained by faith and the promise of a new life in a land promised to them by God. But Pharaoh, his grief giving way to anger and regret, had a change of heart. He assembled his chariots and pursued the fleeing Israelites, determined to drag them back to Egypt. As the Israelites reached the shores of the Red Sea, they looked back and saw the dust clouds kicked up by Pharaoh's approaching army. Fear gripped their hearts. They were trapped with nowhere to go. Moses raised his staff. The waters parted, creating a dry path through the sea. The Israelites walked through the Red Sea as if on dry land, the walls of water towering on either side. Pharaoh's army, blinded by rage and thirst for vengeance, charged into the seabed. The waters crashed back together, engulfing the Egyptians and their chariots. Safe on the opposite shore, the Israelites watched in awe and gratitude. They had witnessed the awesome power of God, a power that had delivered them from slavery and parted the very sea itself. Their hearts overflowed with joy and thanksgiving. They danced and sang, celebrating their newfound freedom under the vast desert sky. Their exodus was a testament to the power of faith, a beacon of hope for generations to come.